Olivia Reyes walked out of the large council chamber with her back straight and her face calm. Inside, she was boiling with anger. For the 6th time this year, the council had ignored Earth's warnings about the Krelvan ships moving near human colonies. "They treat us like children," she said to her aide, Paul Fisher, as they walked down the shining hallway of the Galactic Council station. 300 years in space, and they still act like we're babies who just learned to walk. Paul nodded. "The Zelthari ambassador actually yawned when you were speaking." "I saw that," Olivia said. She stopped walking and looked out the huge window at the swirling colors of the nebula beyond. "They won't listen until it's too late." Her communication device buzzed. The message was short. "It's time. Come home." Olivia read it twice, then showed it to Paul. His eyes went wide. "Are we really doing this?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Earth has decided. We're leaving the council." 12 hours later, Olivia stood before the full Galactic Council. Representatives from 67 spacefaring species watched her from their seats in the giant round room. "Earth is formally withdrawing from the Galactic Council, effective immediately," she announced. Her voice echoed in the sudden silence. "For too long our warnings have been ignored. Our technologies have been used while our voices have been silenced. We will no longer accept this treatment." The Navari representative, a tall blue-skinned being named Jareen, rose from his seat. "Ambassador Reyes, this is a childish reaction to a simple disagreement about border security." Olivia smiled without humor. "The Krelvans have attacked 3 human mining stations in the past month. You called it a simple disagreement. This is exactly why we're leaving." Across the galaxy, Admiral William Garrett received the confirmation signal on the bridge of the Earth flagship Guardian. He turned to his crew. "Send the withdrawal code to all Earth ships and bases in Council space," he ordered. "Operation Homecoming begins now." Throughout Council territories, human ships powered up their engines. Space stations lowered Earth flags. Thousands of human diplomats, traders, engineers, and soldiers began moving to ships and transport hubs. On the frontier planet Bex 9, Commander Samuel Rivers was finishing his drink at an alien bar when his orders came through. He paid his bill and walked out without looking back at the Council security officers who had been his colleagues for 6 years. At his small apartment, he packed only what he could carry and headed to the spaceport. 100 other humans were already there, standing together with their bags. "Commander," said Lieutenant Diane Carter with a quick salute. "All 36 humans on Bex 9 are accounted for. Our transport arrives in 20 minutes. "Good work," Rivers said. He looked at the nervous faces around him. "Everyone understand what's happening?" A young engineer raised his hand. "Sir, are we really cutting ties with the entire council? What about our alien friends? What about trade?" Rivers took a deep breath. "Earth has been patient for a century. We've given technology, food, medicine, and soldiers to council worlds. In return, they've ignored our warnings and treated us like second-class citizens. It's time to show them what the galaxy looks like without humans." The transport ship landed, sleek and powerful. As they boarded, local aliens gathered to watch, confused by the sudden departure. 3 days later, Commander Rivers reported to Admiral Garrett on Guardian. The massive ship was stationed at the edge of what had been Council space, along W5. Years passed since Earth pulled away from the Galactic Council. The planet thrived in its isolation, but the same could not be said for many Council worlds. Lauren Peterson wiped sweat from her forehead as she checked the readings on her lab screen. For 3 years, she had led the team working on the new quantum dimensional drive. Today might finally bring success. "Power levels stable," said her assistant, Greg Mason. "Ready when you are." Lauren nodded and pressed the activation button. The small model ship in the test chamber hummed, then vanished in a flash of blue light. 3 seconds later, it reappeared at the other end of the chamber. "It worked," Greg shouted. Lauren checked the data streaming across her screen. "The ship jumped without using a council gate. We can go anywhere now." Across the lab, the communication screen lit up with the face of President Natalie Clark. "Dr. Peterson, I just got the alert. Your test was successful?" "Yes, Madam President. The quantum drive works perfectly. We can build them for our entire fleet within 6 months. The president smiled. Excellent. The council has been blocking our ships from using their jump gates. This new drive will change everything. Meanwhile, on the border station Sentinel-4, Kevin Owen scrolled through intercepted council messages. As a former diplomat turned intelligence officer, he had a talent for finding hidden meanings. "Captain, you need to see this," he called to Captain Mia Gordon. She walked over to his station. "What did you find?" "Communications between Krelvan officials and members of the council leadership," Kevin explained. "The Krelvans have been bribing council representatives for years to keep humans out of important decisions." Mia frowned. "So the council's treatment of Earth wasn't just arrogance, it was planned by the Krelvans." "Exactly," Kevin said. "And look at these supply reports. Council worlds are struggling without human goods. Food shortages on 12 planets. 6 major shipping companies have collapsed without human AI systems. On the bridge of the patrol ship Defender, Commander Ryan Walsh received an emergency signal. As Earth ships no longer used council communication networks, the signal came through Earth's new private system. "Commander," said his communications officer, "we're picking up a distress call from the Navari colony on Helios 7. They're under attack." "Krelvans?" Ryan asked. "Yes, sir. A full battle group hit their main settlement." Ryan frowned. This wasn't his problem. Earth had withdrawn from council affairs. But the Navari on Helios 7 were mostly civilians, families with children. "Send a message to Admiral Garrett," he decided. "We're close enough to observe. Request permission to gather intelligence on Krelvan tactics." 2 hours later, Ryan's ship hung in space near Helios 7, cloaked by new human technology. Through the view screen, he watched Krelvan warships bomb the Navari colony. "Sir," his sensor officer said quietly, "I'm detecting thousands of civilian life signs in the settlement. The Krelvans are targeting residential areas, not military posts." Ryan's communication officer turned from his station. "Admiral Garrett has responded. We are to observe only. No engagement." Ryan watched as another Krelvan bomb hit the colony. His hands tightened on the armrests of his chair. Back on Earth, Lauren Peterson met with Admiral Garrett and President Clark in the White House Situation Room. "The quantum drive will be ready for the full fleet in 6 months," Lauren explained. "But we could outfit 20 ships immediately for emergency operations." The president nodded. "Good. Reports are coming in from across former council space. The Krelvans are making their move, attacking weakly defended worlds. Let the council handle it," Garrett said firmly. "They didn't want our help before." The president looked troubled. "But millions of innocent people will die. And how many humans died while the council ignored our warnings?" Garrett asked. The room fell silent. Then Kevin Owen entered with a data tablet. "Madam President, Admiral," he said, "I've analyzed the Krelvan attack patterns. They're systematically destroying food production and medical facilities first. This isn't a war for territory. It's extermination." President Clark looked at each person in the room. "We left the council because they wouldn't listen to reason. Are we now going to ignore the cries for help that reach us? What kind of humans would that make us?" No one had an answer. It 300 other Earth vessels. "Commander Rivers," Garrett said, "welcome to your new assignment. You're now in charge of Operation Barrier." "What's Operation Barrier, sir?" Rivers asked. Garrett showed him a star map. A red line curved through space, marking Earth's new border. "The council thinks we'll come crawling back when we get hungry or lonely," Garrett said. "They don't realize how self-sufficient we've become. Your job is to create a defense line along this border. No council ships enter our space without permission." Rivers studied the map. "And the Krelvans, sir?" "If they cross this line," Garrett said grimly, "you show them why the council should have listened to us." The Krelvan attack on the Navari frontier worlds grew worse each day. Council ships tried to fight back but failed again and again. Their battle plans were old, and their ships were slow compared to the Krelvan fleet. In the Earth Defense Headquarters, Admiral Garrett watched the reports with a grim face. The room was filled with officers studying screens showing the Krelvan advance. They've taken 6 Navari worlds in 2 weeks, said Captain Gordon. The Council forces retreat after each battle. Garrett nodded. Their tactics haven't changed in 100 years. The Krelvans know exactly what they'll do before they do it. A young officer entered the room. Admiral, a Navari ship is approaching Earth's orbit. They're requesting permission to dock at our diplomatic station. A single ship? Garrett asked. Yes, sir. It's carrying Ambassador Jareen. Garrett raised his eyebrows. The Navari ambassador had been one of the loudest voices against humans in the Council. Let them dock, he decided. I'll inform the President. On the orbital diplomatic station, Security Director Alice Winters waited with 20 armed guards as the Navari ship connected to the docking bay. When the doors opened, Ambassador Jareen stepped through. The tall, blue-skinned alien looked thinner than before, and his eyes showed his exhaustion. Ambassador, Alice said coldly. Welcome to Earth space. Thank you for allowing me to dock, Jareen said. His voice was humble, not proud like it had been in council meetings. I must speak with your leaders immediately. In the station's conference room, President Clark and Admiral Garrett listened as Jareen described the Krelvan attacks. They destroy everything, the ambassador said. Hospitals, farms, schools. They kill everyone, even children. The Council, fleet cannot stop them. This is exactly what Earth warned the Council about for years, Garrett reminded him. You ignored us. Jareen lowered his head. You were right. We were wrong. Now my people are dying. What do you want from us? President Clark asked. Help, Jareen said simply. The Krelvans fear humans. Your ships, your soldiers, your tactics. You think in ways they cannot predict. Without your help, the Navari worlds will fall. After that, they will attack other council races one by one. Alice Winters, who had been standing silently by the door, stepped forward. Madam President, I advise against intervention. The council needs to learn its lesson. They pushed us away. Let them solve their own problems. President Clark looked troubled. She turned to Colonel Daniel Kelly, who had been invited to the meeting because of his experience fighting Krelvans in earlier conflicts. Colonel, your thoughts? She asked. Daniel had been studying the maps of the attack zones. He looked up at the president. The Krelvans are focusing on civilian targets. If we do nothing, millions of innocent people will die, he said. But I don't think we should rejoin the Council's war either. What do you suggest? Garrett asked. A humanitarian mission, Daniel replied. We send ships to evacuate civilians from the planets in the Krelvan's path. We don't fight the Council's war, but we don't let innocent people die. President Clark nodded slowly. A middle path. We help people without rejoining a broken system. Jareen looked disappointed. You will not fight with us? No, the president said firmly. Earth will not send warships to defend Council territory, but we will help the innocent. Colonel Kelly will lead a humanitarian fleet to evacuate civilians from the threatened worlds. Later that day, Colonel Kelly met with Captain Victoria Martinez. Aboard the Earth ship Resilient, the ship was being loaded with medical supplies and emergency shelters. We leave in 6 hours, Daniel told her. Your ship will lead the evacuation fleet, 20 ships all equipped with the new quantum drives. Victoria studied the mission details on her tablet. The Krelvans will try to stop us. Probably, Daniel agreed. But our ships can jump without using the gates. We can appear where they don't expect us and be gone before they can react. Victoria looked at him. This could turn into a fig. The Resilient dropped out of quantum space near the Navari colony world Thera 6. 5 other Earth ships appeared beside it, their engines glowing blue in the darkness. Captain Victoria Martinez looked at the planet. Through the main view screen, fires burned across the northern continent. Krelvan ships detected, said her sensor officer. 4 warships in orbit. They're bombing the main city. Victoria turned to Colonel Kelly, who stood beside her chair. Orders, sir? Start the evacuation immediately, he said. Launch all shuttles to the secondary cities first. The Krelvans haven't reached those yet, Victoria nodded. And the Krelvan ships? Avoid them if possible, Kelly replied. We're here to save lives, not start battles. 20 minutes later, Earth shuttles landed in the Navari cities across the southern continent. Scared blue-skinned families climbed aboard, carrying only what they could hold in their arms. Lieutenant Andy Parker led the ground team in the city of New Haven. He helped an elderly Navari woman onto his shuttle. "Thank you," she said in broken English. "Council ships left us. Said too dangerous." Andy smiled at her. "We won't leave anyone behind." His radio crackled. "Lieutenant, Krelvan ships heading your way. You have 15 minutes to load and launch." Andy looked at the line of Navari still waiting to board. There were hundreds. "Not enough time," he replied. "We need at least 30 minutes. Back on the Resilient, Victoria received the message. "Colonel, our ground teams need more time." Kelly studied the tactical display. The Krelvan ships had noticed the Earth vessels and were moving to attack. "Captain, move us between the Krelvans." "And the planet," he ordered. "Will buy our people time." The Resilient and 2 other Earth ships moved to block the Krelvan approach. The lead Krelvan warship sent a message. "Human vessels, leave this system or be destroyed." Kelly took the communication. "Krelvan Command, we are on a humanitarian mission. We are evacuating civilians only. All who ally with Council races will die," came the reply. The Krelvan ships opened fire. Energy beams flashed toward the Earth vessels. But the human ships were ready. Their advanced shields absorbed the attack. "Return fire," Kelly ordered. "Target their weapons only." The Resilient's guns fired with perfect accuracy, hitting the weapon ports on the lead Krelvan ship. On the other Earth ships, human gunners did the same. "Sir," called Victoria's science officer, "I'm detecting strange readings from that Krelvan carrier. They're launching something toward the planet." Kelly looked at the readings. "Those aren't fighters. They're biocontainers." Engineer Ryan Bradley had been analyzing the data from his station. He looked up with alarm. "Colonel, those containers are full of biological agents. I've seen this before. The Krelvans are using bioweapons." "Can you stop them?" Kelly asked. Ryan thought for a moment. "Our defense systems can be modified to target the containers, but I need 10 minutes. "You have 5, Kelly said. Ryan rushed to work, fingers flying over his console. Victoria kept the ship steady as the Krelvans continued to fire at them. "Shuttles report they need 10 more minutes to complete loading," the communications officer reported. "They'll have it," Kelly promised. Ryan finished his modifications. "Ready, sir." "Fire," Kelly ordered. The Resilient's defense grid sent out pulses of energy that intercepted the biocontainers, destroying them before they could reach the planet. "Krelvan ships are pulling back," Victoria reported. "They seem surprised we could stop their bioweapons." Ryan studied his screens. "Colonel, I'm analyzing the residue from those containers. The Krelvans aren't just trying to kill the Navari. They're harvesting their DNA. These weapons were designed to break down bodies, but preserve genetic material." Kelly frowned. "Why would they want Navari DNA?" "I don't know," Ryan admitted, "but it can't be good." The last shuttles launched from the planet's surface loaded with Navari refugees. They docked with the Earth ships as the Krelvans regrouped. "All civilians evacuated, sir," Victoria reported. 8,300 people saved. Kelly nodded. "Prepare for quantum jump. Let's get these people to safety." As the Earth ships vanished into quantum space, the Krelvan commander watched in frustration. Humans had interfered with their plans again. The supreme leader would not be pleased. "Ting. Mission very quickly," Daniel nodded. "I know, but we're not going to fire first. We're going to save lives. That's our mission." "And if the Krelvans attack us?" she asked. "Then," Daniel said with a hard smile, "they'll learn why they wanted humans kept out of galactic affairs." The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was no longer peaceful. Representatives shouted at each other across the room. The Zelthari, with their gray skin and 4 eyes, pointed accusing fingers at the blue Navari. "You brought this disaster upon us," shouted the Zelthari leader. "Your border disputes with the Krelvan started this war." The Navari ambassador, a replacement for Jareen who remained on Earth, stood up. We warned you about Krelvan movements for years. You ignored us, just as you ignored the humans. In the corner, the insect-like Dromidians buzzed among themselves. Their speaker stepped forward. Perhaps we should negotiate with the Krelvans, give them the outer worlds they want, save the core systems. This caused even more shouting. The council was falling apart. On the trading station crossroads, independent human merchant Gabrielle Murphy watched the news reports about the council's problems. She sipped her coffee and made notes on her tablet. Since Earth's withdrawal, she had built a network of human traders who worked outside official channels. A thin alien with green skin slid into the seat across from her. The medicine arrived, he whispered. Our resistance fighters, thank you. Gabrielle nodded. Next month we can bring weapons, small ones that won't trigger Krelvan scanners. The price? The alien asked. Information, Gabrielle replied. We need to know Krelvan patrol routes, fleet movements, command structures. The alien looked nervous but nodded. Our people will gather what they can. After he left, Gabrielle sent an encrypted message to Earth's intelligence service. Her small trading ship was doing more than delivering supplies to occupied worlds. She was building an information network. On Earth, Admiral Garrett met with Major Eric Sullivan, leader of Earth's Special Forces. They stood in a secure room with maps spread across the table. Your team will infiltrate this Krelvan base, Garrett explained, pointing to a moon orbiting a gas giant. Intelligence suggests they have a central command post there. Eric studied the maps. Objectives? Information. Gathering only, Garrett said. We need to understand their overall strategy. Something about this war doesn't make sense. The Krelvans are too organized, too prepared. It's as if they've been planning this for decades. Eric nodded. My team is ready. 6 operators, all experienced. We'll use the new stealth suits. 2 days later, Eric's team slipped onto the Krelvan moonbase using a small ship with experimental cloaking technology. They moved silently through the base, placing tiny listening devices in key locations. In the central command room, Eric connected a small device to the Krelvan computer system. It began copying files while he and his team member, Sergeant Lisa Powell, stood guard. Lisa suddenly tapped his shoulder and pointed. Through a window, they could see a meeting room. A Krelvan commander stood talking to a tall figure in council diplomatic robes. That's a council member, Lisa whispered. A Dromidian. Eric took pictures with his special camera. The Krelvans have council officials working with them. We need to get this back to Earth. On their way out, they passed a laboratory. Eric glanced inside and froze. Large tubes filled with blue liquid held what looked like growing bodies. Not Krelvan, but mixed species with features from different races. They're creating hybrid soldiers, Lisa said in horror, using the DNA they've been collecting. Back on Earth, Nicole Barnes analyzed the data from Eric's mission. The intelligence analyst worked day and night to understand what they had found. President Clark called an emergency meeting when Nicole finished her report. The Krelvans have been planning this war for over 50 years, Nicole explained to the assembled leaders. They have spies in the council. They bribed officials to keep Earth isolated. And they're creating biological weapons using harvested DNA. Why? Asked Security Director Winters. What's their goal? Nicole displayed an image from the stolen files. It showed Earth began its quiet war against the Krelvans. While the council worlds fell one by one, human ships moved through the shadows of space like ghosts. They never attacked directly, but Krelvan supply ships disappeared. Communication bases stopped working. Fuel depots exploded without warning. Nicole Barnes worked from a small office deep inside Earth's defense headquarters. Screens covered her walls, showing maps of Krelvan movements and supply lines. She directed a network of agents and ships across 50 star systems. Cut this supply line next, she told Captain Jason Wright during their secure call. Their forces on Bellis 4 will run out of fuel in 2 weeks. Jason nodded. His face looked tired on the screen. He had been leading a flotilla of stealth vessels for 3 months without returning to Earth. My ships will be in position tomorrow, he said. But Nicole, we're just slowing them down. The Krelvans are still advancing. I know, she admitted. But every day we buy gives more civilians time to escape. After the call ended, Nicole was summoned to an emergency meeting. When she arrived, she found the room full of Earth's top leaders and scientists. A tall, gray-skinned alien stood at the front. "This is Zorlath," President Clark said, "a Zelthari scientist who has defected to Earth." The alien bowed slightly. "Thank you for granting me asylum," he said in perfect English. Admiral Garrett looked suspicious. "Why should we trust a member of a council race?" Zorlath held out a data crystal. "Because I bring truth. I have worked in Krelvan laboratories for 10 years as a forced scientist. What I discovered there made me risk everything to reach you." Dr. Patricia Morgan, Earth's leading xenobiologist, took the crystal and inserted it into a reader. Images appeared on the main screen: laboratory scenes, genetic sequences, and Krelvan military plans. "The Krelvans engineered the conflict between humans and the Council," Zorlath explained. "They planted false information, bribed officials, and created border incidents, all to remove the only species they truly feared." "Us?" Nicole asked. "Why fear humans specifically?" Zorlath's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Adaptability, unpredictability. Krelvans are logical and methodical. They can predict how Navari, Zelthari, and Dromidians will react in any situation. Our species have changed little in thousands of years. He pointed to a human genetic sequence on the screen. "But your kind evolves rapidly. You change your tactics, your technology, your very thinking patterns. In the brief time your species has been in space, you have created technologies that took other races centuries to develop." Admiral Garrett frowned. "If they feared us so much, why not just attack Earth directly?" "Because direct conflict with humans would be unpredictable," Zorlath said. "Their models showed too many possible outcomes, many ending in Krelvan defeat. But by removing humans from the Council first, they could conquer the more predictable species, then face you alone, with the resources of the entire galaxy." Dr. Morgan studied the biological data Zorlath had brought. "These bioweapons are designed to target specific genetic markers," she said. "They're creating customized plagues for each species." "Yes," Zorlath confirmed. "They plan to use disease rather than ships to conquer the most resistant worlds. They've already tested these weapons on outer colonies." President Clark looked grim. "And do they have a weapon designed for humans?" "They've tried to create one," Zorlath said. "But human genetic diversity makes it difficult. Your species carries more variation than any other spacefaring race." Nicole turned to her tablet and checked reports from her agents. "This matches what we're seeing in the field. The Krelvans are collecting biological samples from each world they conquer. We need to develop countermeasures," Dr. Morgan said. "With Zorlath's help, I can create vaccines and treatments." "How much time do we have?" President Clark asked. 2 months, Zorlath answered. "Then they will begin large-scale biological attacks." Admiral Garrett stood up. "We've been fighting from the shadows, slowing them down. But this changes everything. We need to bring this information to what's left of the Council." President Clark nodded slowly. "It's time to end our isolation. Earth must lead the fight against the Krelvans before it's too late." Nicole looked at the star map showing Krelvan-controlled territory. "The question is, who in the Council can we still trust?" Map of the galaxy with all Council worlds marked in red. "Conquest," she said simply. "They want to rule everything, and they feared only one species could stop them." "Humans," Admiral Garrett said. Nicole nodded. "That's why they worked so hard to push us out of the Council. They didn't want us there when they attacked." President Clark looked around the room. "The question is, what do we do now? Do we tell what remains of the Council? Or do we use this information to negotiate a better position for Earth?" No one had an easy answer. The secret meeting took place on an unmarked Earth station floating at the edge of human space. President Clark stood tall as the representatives from the remaining Council races entered the room. There were far fewer than the original Council. Only the Navari, led by Jareen, a small group of Zelthari scientists, and 3 Dromidian leaders had accepted Earth's invitation. "Thank you for coming," President Clark said as they all sat down. "We have information that changes everything about this war." Ambassador Frank Curtis, Earth's new diplomatic chief, activated the holographic display in the center of the table. It showed the evidence collected from Zorlath and Earth's intelligence network. The Krelvans engineered the conflict between Earth and the Council, Frank explained. They manipulated all of us for decades. The Dromidian leader clicked his mandibles, in disbelief. Why would we believe this human propaganda? You abandoned the Council when we needed you most. Zorlath stepped forward. The Zelthari scientist faced his fellow aliens. I worked inside Krelvan laboratories. These records came from their own computers. The hologram changed to show Krelvan commanders meeting with Council officials, including several Dromidians. The Dromidian leader fell silent. Jareen leaned forward. What is your proposal, Earth? Why bring us here? President Clark nodded to Frank, who continued. We propose a new alliance, not a return to the old Council system, but a military partnership against the Krelvans. What terms do you demand? Asked a Zelthari scientist. Equal partnership, Frank said firmly. Humans will no longer accept second-class status. Our ships, our soldiers, our technologies will be part of a joint command, with positions based on merit, not age or tradition. The aliens looked uncomfortable. For thousands of years, the older races had led while younger species followed. The Council ways have served us for millennia, the Dromidian argued. And now the Council is in ruins, Frank replied. How well? Did those old ways protect you from the Krelvans? Silence filled the room. Then Jareen stood up. My people have lost 12 worlds to the Krelvans. Only human ships tried to save our civilians. I support Earth's proposal, the Zelthari scientists whispered among themselves before their leader nodded. We also agree. The old ways have failed. The Dromidians were the last to decide. Finally, their leader spoke. We will join this alliance, but not all Dromidians will follow. Many have already surrendered to the Krelvans. Then it's settled, President Clark said. From today, we fight together. After the meeting, Chief Engineer Michelle Harrison led the alien representatives on a tour of Earth's shipyards. Massive vessels under construction filled the space around them. These are our newest ships, Michelle explained. All equipped with quantum drives that don't need jump gates. They can appear anywhere in Krelvan space without warning. Jareen looked impressed. How many can you build? We have 50 completed and 100 more under construction, Michelle answered. Our factories work day and night. The alien leaders watched as human technicians installed weapon systems designed by Michelle's team. These weapons were unlike anything the Council races had developed. Will you share this technology with our shipbuilders? The Zelthari scientist asked. Yes, Michelle said. That's what allies do. On the command ship Guardian, Admiral Garrett met with the military leaders from all 4 species. They gathered around a tactical display showing Krelvan-controlled space. The joint fleet will operate in 5 battle groups, Garrett explained. Each group will have ships from all our species, using our different strengths together. A Navari, commander raised his hand. Who will lead these battle groups? The most qualified officers, regardless of species, Garrett answered. I will command the main fleet, with captains from each species as my advisors. The joint fleet launched its attack against the Krelvan Empire 3 months after the alliance formed. Human ships led the way, using their quantum drives to appear behind enemy lines without warning. The Krelvan commanders were shocked as their supply bases exploded and their communication centers went dark. On the bridge of the Guardian, Admiral Garrett directed the main assault. Screens showed battles unfolding across 20 star systems, simultaneously. Navari fast ships have disabled the defense grid around Proxima Station, reported a communications officer. Zelthari science vessels are jamming Krelvan sensors in the Orion sector. Garrett nodded in approval. And our ground forces? Lieutenant Gregory Wilson's team has landed on the Krelvan command world, sir. They're working with Navari special forces to infiltrate the central base. On the surface of Krelvan Prime, Greg Wilson led his squad through underground tunnels. Beside him moved 6 Navari soldiers, their blue skin darkened with combat paint. Years ago, humans and Navari would never have fought side by side. Now, they moved as one team, defense hub ahead. whispered Sandy Morgan, Greg's second in command. Guards at the door, Greg signaled to the Navari soldiers. Two of them stepped forward, using their natural ability to blend with shadows. The Krelvan guards never saw them coming. Clear, one Navari called softly. Inside the hub, Greg's team placed explosive charges on the main power systems. When they detonated, the planetary shields would fall, allowing the Allied fleet to attack from orbit. "We have 10 minutes to reach the extraction point," Greg told his team as they finished setting the charges. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. A Krelvan voice shouted orders over the speaker system. "They know we're here," Sandy said. Greg checked his tactical map. "New plan. We split up. You take our team to the extraction point. I'll lead the Navari through the secondary route and draw their attention." Sandy looked worried but nodded. As the team separated, Greg ran through the corridors with his Navari, allies intentionally triggering sensors to pull Krelvan forces away from Sandy's group. In space, the battle reached its peak. The Krelvan main fleet engaged the Allied ships near their homeworld. Captain Victoria Martinez commanded the Resilient at the front of the human attack wing. "Multiple Krelvan dreadnoughts approaching," her tactical officer warned. Victoria studied the enemy formation. "They're using the same attack pattern they've used for the last 3 battles. They never learn, never adapt." She opened a channel to the other ship captains. "Execute Maneuver Omega, just like we practiced." The human ships broke formation, seemingly in disarray. The Krelvans pressed their attack, thinking they had caused confusion. Then the human vessels abruptly changed course, swinging around to hit the Krelvan ships from multiple angles at once. Navari and Zelthari vessels joined the attack, focusing on targets the humans had designated. On the Krelvan homeworld, the charges detonated. Planetary shields flickered and died. Greg and the Navari fighters raced toward their backup extraction point as Krelvan soldiers closed in from all directions. "We're not going to make it," a Navari soldier said as they took cover behind fallen debris. Greg smiled. "Yes, we are." He activated his emergency beacon. "Just not the way we planned." Above them, the Resilient broke through the Krelvan blockade. Victoria received Greg's signal. "Get me a lock on those coordinates," she ordered. "Precise beam extraction." Light surrounded Greg and the Navari soldiers. A moment later, they materialized on the Resilient's transport pad. "Cutting it close, Lieutenant," Victoria said with a smile. "Just making things interesting, Captain," Greg replied. Admiral Garrett's voice came over the ship's communication system. "All ships target the Imperial Palace, end this now." The Allied fleet fired as one. The Krelvan Imperial Palace, a massive structure of metal and stone, erupted in flames and smoke. 3 days later, the Krelvan Emperor surrendered unconditionally. 1 month after the victory, representatives from all species gathered on Earth. They stood in a great hall where President Clark addressed them. "Today we sign the Galactic Concordat," she said. "Not a council ruled by age and tradition, but a true alliance of equals. Every voice will be heard, every contribution valued." As the leaders signed the document, Admiral Garrett stood with Jareen near a window overlooking the rebuilt human fleet. "We should thank the Krelvans in a way," Jareen said. "Without their treachery, we might never have created this new beginning." Garrett nodded. "Sometimes you have to leave the table before anyone realizes your true value." "Earth abandoned the Council," Jareen agreed, "and the galaxy fell into chaos. But from that chaos, something better has emerged." The alien commanders looked surprised but didn't object. They had seen enough defeats to know change was necessary. Later, President Clark and Jareen walked together along a corridor with windows looking out at the assembled fleet. 5 years ago, I never imagined we would fight side by side again," Jareen admitted. Clark nodded. "Sometimes systems must break before they can be rebuilt properly." "Do you believe we can win?" the Navari asked. "Yes," Clark said simply. "Because this time, we fight together as equals."